2 days ago, Donald J. Trump was inaugurated as the 45th President of the United States. He promised under oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. Donald J. Trump is the President of the United States. This is an undeniable fact. Really. Don't try to avoid or deny it. Acknowledge it. Bring it to the front and center of your awareness. Be fully conscious of it. Donald J. Trump is our president. How did it happen, you ask? He lost the popular vote. Yes, but he knew how to manipulate the system. He knew that the popular vote didn't really matter. He went for the Electoral College vote. He was smart. Admit it. He was smart. Say what you may, under our present system, he won the presidency. And now he is the president of our country. Now, if you will, whether you like it or not, I want you to totally and completely, without question or reservation, bring that fact front and center to your awareness. Be totally and completely conscious of the Trump presidency. Yes, buts. No if-onlys. No, he's not my president. Got it? Okay. Now hold on to that thought. Whether you like it or not doesn't matter. It is reality. Whether your party affiliation is Republican or Democrat, Independent or some other party, it really doesn't matter. Whether you're a conservative or a liberal, none of that matters. He is our president. What matters is that we are the United States of America, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All for one and one for all. United we stand, divided we fall. None of that has changed unless we let it change. Our capacity and resolve to care for one another is what matters. Compassion and love, dedication to the oneness of all creation is what really matters. Acceptance of differences matters. Our democracy is what really matters. In the words of my incredibly wise daughter, Bess, after her husband, Luke, almost died in a horrendous motorcycle accident, she said, "It is what it is, and we'll deal with it." Sometimes I think we need a punch in the gut, like my getting cancer, to bring us to our senses, to knock the wind out of our sails and bring us back down to the reality of what's going on. My prophetic word for the day is, wake up. Become aware of what's happening all around you. We are not isolated, independent individuals, but rather we are part of the interdependent web of life. What happens to one happens to all. We are one. What happens to the earth happens to everyone. We are one. We stand in solidarity with the LGBTQ community. We stand in solidarity with the undocumented immigrants and their families. We stand in solidarity with refugees as they seek a better life. We stand in solidarity with the oppressed, the disabled, the weak, the starving, the homeless, the disadvantaged, the sick, the old and the young, with all life on this our earthly home and with the earth itself. We are one. An attack on one is an attack on all. Prophets are people who stick their necks out and speak the truth about what is going on. Don't expect that taking a stand for what is right is going to make you popular. The prophets in the Old Testament, like Isaiah and Jeremiah, were not popular men in their time. People didn't want to hear what they had to say. The prophets pointed out what was wrong and warned of the consequences if the people followed the path on which they were traveling. You're headed for chaos, they warned. The people did not listen. They were too comfortable in their lifestyle. They ignored the warning signs and went on with their lives, living the good life without a care in the world and without caring about anything or anyone but themselves. Times were good, and they expected them to continue being good without their taking any responsibility for where they were heading. In the end, their kingdom was conquered. Their leaders were taken off into exile. But somehow, the Spirit lived on in the hearts and minds of the survivors, and they were able to pick up the pieces and rebuild. They wrote down those early warnings for future generations to learn from them. Look, see, be aware. This is what happens when you lose sight of your values. This is what happens when you lose sight with who you really are. So the question for us now is, who are we? And what do we stand for? On Tuesday nights here at the church, our meditation group, I was going to say our small meditation group, but in fact it is a growing group. That group spends time practicing awareness. That's what meditation is. It is practicing awareness. We practice paying attention to our breath, to our body, how it feels, what is going on around us and within us. Awareness and mindfulness are what we are seeking. Present moment awareness. The now. If you deny what is happening in the now, you can't deal with it. The Buddha, having been sheltered by his father from suffering and pain, was appalled when he discovered that suffering was a reality in the world. We all suffer. It is part of life. We ignore it at our own peril. In his book, Buddhism Without Beliefs, Stephen Batchelor wrote the following, and I quote, "Instead of presenting himself as a savior, the Buddha saw himself as a healer. He presented his truths in the form of a medical diagnosis, prognosis, and treatment. If you have a pain in your chest, you first need to acknowledge it. Then you will go to a doctor for an examination. His diagnosis will both identify the cause of pain and tell you if it is curable. If it is curable, he will advise you to follow a course of treatment. Likewise, the Buddha acknowledged the existential condition of anguish. On examination, he found its origins to lie in self-centered craving. He realized that this could cease and prescribed the cultivation of a path embracing all aspects of human experience as an effective treatment. End quote. We need to become aware of the suffering, acknowledge that its origins lie in self-centered craving, and then cultivate a loving, compassionate path in life that embraces all aspects of human experience. That is the core of the Buddha's teaching. It's as simple as that. Wake up to what is happening, acknowledge its origins in self-centered craving, and change the path that you are on. The Buddha spent his life searching for enlightenment. What he eventually found was awareness, mindfulness. On his deathbed, he was asked if he was enlightened. His response was that he was awake. Are we ready, willing, and able to wake up? It's time for a reality check, folks. It's time to wake up to what is happening all around us. The next step, of course, is to be that awakened self. One step at a time, become aware of the suffering, recognize its origins in self-centered craving, in other words, greed, and start to move on to a more compassionate, loving path. Ponder for a moment the story of King Midas. He was given one wish, and the wish he chose was that everything he touched would turn to gold. He craved more wealth for himself. In pictures of him, everything around him glitters with gold. It looks beautiful. He was living in the lap of luxury. His palace was gold. All the furniture in the palace was gold. Is that what you want? Really? What is the real cost of all that luxury? How much money does one person really need anyway? What are you giving up in order to maintain that lifestyle? What does it profit a man or a woman if he or she gains the whole world but suffers the loss of their own soul? What is our guiding principle? Is it love and compassion for others, or is it greed, more money for me, everyone for themselves? Is it power with or power over? I don't care how much money you've got. It's how you use it that's important. Money is a means to an end. It is not the end in itself. It seems to me that that is the problem we face today. King Midas wanted to turn everything into gold for himself, and in the process he lost everything that was really meaningful for him. Everything King Midas touched turned to gold, even the food that he wanted to eat. His food was made inedible in his quest for gold. Is that what Monsanto is doing to our food supply? There are reports of the chemicals in Roundup contaminating our food supply. Our food supply is being turned into gold, and in the process, it is being made inedible. What are we going to do about that? King Midas touched the water and it turned into gold. But you can't drink gold. When the water is polluted, you can't drink it. And we need clean water, not more gold, in order to survive. Are we willing to risk contaminating our water in order to make more money for the kings in our world? Look at Flint, Michigan, and learn from that. In order to save money, they ended up polluting the water supply with toxic lead. Look at the We Are Seneca Lake movement and what they are trying to do to preserve the purity of the waters of Seneca Lake, and learn from that. Join them in their efforts. Look at Standing Rock and join in solidarity with the Native Americans there as they fight to preserve their sacred land and the integrity of the water. The Trans-Pacific Pipeline will make more money for big oil companies while putting our water supply at risk. Is it really worth it? Is the money really worth the risk? The daughter of King Midas, who he loved dearly, was turned to gold when he touched her. Bright and shiny, but hard and lifeless. Is this greed of some putting our children at risk? In the story of King Midas, his quest for gold destroyed everything around him that he loved and needed. Is that really the direction we want to go in? Really? Do we want to risk contaminating our water supply, the air we breathe, our food supply, and the very earth on which we live in the process of making more money for the kings of this world? Really? We have choices. We always have choices. Be aware of what your choices are and act on them. We all need clean air, clean water, a reliable, uncontaminated food supply, adequate, affordable housing, a living wage, affordable health care, and a healthy planet on which to live and work and raise our children. Social Security, Medicare and Medicaid, veterans benefits, equal pay for equal work, access to quality education, our civil rights are all at risk when those in charge of the government are out for themselves and not for the greater good. Is it worth risking our environment in order to line the pockets of a few with gold? Is it worth contaminating our water, our food supply, our air, in order to line the pockets of the rich with more gold? Is it worth ignoring the warnings of climate change in order to continue using fossil fuels, making more money for rich corporations, all the while sending more CO2 and other contaminants into the atmosphere? Wake up! Wake up! Really wake up! And once you are awake, do something. Stand up for what is right and good for all. Protest if that is what it takes. Make your views known. Write letters. Make phone calls. Run for office. Get out there and make a difference. The time for sitting back and letting someone else do it for you is over. It's over, folks. We, every one of us, need to be that voice in the wilderness that cries out, "Stop! Enough!" Listen to the prophetic voices. really wake up. We are facing an attack on our democracy. The attack on the press has already begun. The president's cabinet is being stacked with billionaires and generals. The Supreme Court nominee will be next. Our democratic system is being manipulated for the good of the top 1% of the people, leaving the rest of us to fend for ourselves. The question is, are we all in this together, or are a few in this just for themselves? Is compassion and love going to be our guide, or are we going to give way to greed? Gimme, gimme, gimme. Give me what I want for me, and the rest of you, too bad, you're on your own. Fend for yourselves. It's your own fault you don't have what you need to survive. Don't look to me to help you out. I made it. Why can't you? Where is justice for all in that attitude? Unfortunately, this attitude is spreading to our international relationships. Who needs NATO? It's an old, outdated idea, isn't it? Why should we pay more than other countries? Why aren't they paying their fair share? Do we really need them anyway? The answer is yes, we sure do. Wake up. Like it or not, we're all on this planet together, and it's the only one we've got, so we better take care of it and each other. We have a responsibility to relate to others with compassion. We need to be a just and fair society. We need to change the path that we are on. Remember the 7 principles of Unitarian Universalism. Unitarian Universalism. That's a mouthful, isn't it? And let them be our guide. Read our Constitution and let that be our guide. Listen to your heart, listen to your conscience, and let them be your guide. We are the embodiment of an amazing tradition that is there for all people and for the whole world in which we live. It is up to us to stand up for our values, to make them a reality in the face of threats against them. Wake up, stand up, and be counted. If the number of people demonstrating for respect and equality yesterday is any indication, then people are waking up. People all over the country, indeed all over the world, stood up to be counted. Many went from our community to rally in Seneca Falls. Thousands from all over the country went to Washington, D.C. to make their voices heard, taking a stand for equal rights for everyone. In communities large and small, all over our great nation, people came out to make their voices heard. We cannot afford to remain the silent majority. The reality is that working together, we can make a difference. Really. To quote the renowned theologian Reinhold Niebuhr, man's and woman's capacity for justice makes democracy possible. But man's and woman's inclination to injustice makes democracy necessary. Reinhold Niebuhr also wrote what has become known as the Serenity Prayer. There are many versions of the prayer. I offer you this version today as we leave this place to go out into the world. As we go forth now into the new reality of the world in which we live, may we have the grace to accept with serenity the things that cannot be changed, the courage to change the things which should be changed, and the wisdom to distinguish the one from the other. Really. Amen.
Like to join hands, we'll have the words as we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, or the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you, Joan.
Join us for worship every Sunday at 10 a.m. at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Canandaigua, a welcoming congregation. We are located at 3024 Cooley Road, 4 miles west of South Main Street, Canandaigua, just north of the intersection with Routes 5 and 20. Look for the blue signs just before the turn. Your comments about this program or questions about the church are welcome at 585-396-1370 or at our website, www.canandaiguauu.org. Producer and editor, Daniel Brigham.